Good evening and welcome to this webinar. I had some technical issues, I'm very sorry. My name is Anne Schnörpel and I'm responsible for customer support at Investor. I'm very pleased doing this webinar together with Primavera. I would like to welcome the management of Primavera, Bernard Hafenscher, Raluca Mathieu and Pietro Ranieri. In the next half an hour or so, we will get a deeper insight into the company's business model and revenue drivers. And afterwards, we will be happy to answer your questions. So please feel free to ask them in the chat at any time. And with this, I would like to hand over to Bernard.
Good afternoon, good evening, where you are, in which time zone. Thanks for joining us, and above all, thanks for your interest in Primavera Digital Group and the campaign that is running with Investor currently. We're here to answer your question. I do assume that you had a look at the campaign, had a look at what we're doing in principle. So please excuse, I'm not going into those details right now. If there are questions, again, more than happy to answer them. But the intention of the session is today, there were some requests on what's actually behind Primavera as a holding company. There are two major companies behind that, Internet Corp from Romania and Ranieri Agency headquartered in the UK. And what are they doing? What's their business like? We want to know more about this. And we thought it makes total sense. And this question is absolutely okay. So I'm glad to introduce Raluca as the CEO of Internet Corp. She's going to present herself and her company in a second. And then there's Pietro for Ranieri Agency out of London, right? And we are glad to, get your introduction as well. After those two, we will be open for questions. We also have prepared some questions that we got up front, right? So, but now stage is yours, Raluca. Welcome and thanks for making it.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yes, all good. Thank you. Thank you. So first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Raluca Mathieu. I'm the CEO of Internet Corp. I started my journey in Internet Corp 15 years ago, but only in the last 8 years I took over the CEO role, previously being the sales director and having a crucial role in transforming Internet Corp from a local, independent, rather small digital publisher into a very solid company we are today. Thus, we started with the ambition of becoming one of the most important online publishers in Romania. But through the years, we managed to diversify our services and capacities in being not just a publisher anymore, but also a company focused on offline and online events, on special projects, on technology, a sales house, strategy, and starting 2 years ago, a video content producer specialized in design services as well. So in this moment, I manage over 50 people, and I'm very happy to continue my dream every day to transform Internet Corp into a powerful regional company that can offer somehow a complete experience for all the customers in the European and global markets, frequently kind of being a one-stop shop for all their digital needs. Going back to the actual business, every year we manage to achieve a new milestone by launching new sites, by launching the events business line, launching new opportunities as Creative Corp or Video Corp, doubling our portfolio 3 years ago, and even launching during the pandemic year an online events platform that helped us to continue our plans and initiatives on event sites, even when all the offline events were completely cancelled. That's why I always like to say that the most important thing I've learned all these years is to be able to adapt and transform any problem into an opportunity somehow. Getting back to what describes us best when it comes to core business, well, we are specialized and recognized in the Romanian digital market as the publisher with the most important focus and know-how on special projects, and that's why our market share when it comes to budgets in special projects is above 40% every year. We have more than 200 million page views available in the whole network every month. And we are proud to represent in this moment 55 of the most important sites in the local market, but also some international apps and players like TuneIn, like Deezer or Viber. I would like to add the fact that despite that this year started with an important decrease in the Romanian digital advertising market, estimated at almost maybe 2% less year on year, we still managed to increase our number. We were still able to grow, even in this not so generous context, and we are very confident that we can still maintain somehow the whole trend for the entire year. When it comes, I've told you earlier about the events. When it comes to events, our dedicated platform, IC Events, is a global platform that offers digital customer engagement services for creating business growth in the end. From standardized project plans that can be implemented in record time to complete marketing-oriented campaigns, with premium live streaming services, IC Events, I like to say, and I totally feel that IC Events is a complete solution. Through our synergies within Pdg Group, we now have access to a broader pipeline of clients, and we already have different discussions with some of them, preparing their custom-made solutions to cover their needs and objectives. We are very confident that our platform is to the highest standards. A proof of that being the fact that our most important competitor in the Romanian market uses our platform in this moment, even if he is, as I said, our main competitor on events. We have the entire team in-house. We did everything with our colleagues, and that allows us to be very fast when it comes to implementation and development. And our level of customization is at that level that very few platforms can provide, and I'm very sure when I say that. Regarding the Video Corp services, Video Corp is our division specialized in special projects like reviews, documentaries, video shows, and we also won some important awards in the market when it comes to video projects, being, by the way, the only publisher in the Romanian market who has ever won such an award. We are therefore ready anytime to implement video projects, not only on our sites, but on the other hand, to develop some video projects for the clients. Again, with the help of our partners in Pdg, Ranieri Agency, we are now in the process of collaboration for various clients, both on video and design work, which surely creates the opportunities of getting outside Romania with our capacities, and decreasing the services we can provide, and of course, in the end, increasing the numbers for the whole group. We really have lots of ideas and initiatives. We are really focused on increasing the team of experts to support all of this, and we are really ready to go further and keep our growing trend. That's why we really want to have this opportunity. When the odds are all in our favor, the market is there, we have to be there also, as I like to say, with all our engines running. That was Internet Corp, that was me.
Okay, thank you. Then I would like to hand over to Piero.
Hi, everyone. Firstly, thanks, Raluca. That was always a hard act to follow when I follow you in a speech. Yeah, so I'm Pietro Ranieri. I'm the founder of Ranieri Agency 20 years ago now. I'm just going to give you a very quick update on just how I got to do PR, and then a bit about Ranieri, and then why we're in Pdg. So yeah, I started, my first industry job was now 28 years ago. I started with an agency called Communicating IT, who, fortunately for me, I was the first employee at the time. But the two founders of that agency, one was absolutely amazing at business development, and the other one was a great PR strategist. So, you know, right from the kind of, you know, my first job, I learned what it sort of took to sort of start an agency and grow it from the beginning, and kind of really, I think, gave me a sort of real entrepreneurial spirit. 7 years later, I ended up leaving that agency just from a kind of more of a sort of a lifestyle choice. But we ended up being about a 30-person agency, probably similar to the UK, or a bit bigger than the UK is now in Ranieri. But we had a whole bunch of really amazing clients that I helped sort of win and service. So people like Macromedia, which was Flash at the time. Obviously Rational Software, which is this kind of amazing company which gave the methodology for software development. Then a whole bunch of kind of Mac industry clients at the time called Lasti, Dance, Extenses, who are all kind of big players there. I left originally just because, you know, like I say, I went contracting, but fortunately for me, the whole kind of consumer electronics market really sort of kicked off at the time that I left. So although there was kind of consumer electronics kicking around, it really sort of started when Apple launched the iPod. And obviously iPod kicked off things like silicon cases, little speakers that you attach to the iPod. But most of the early accessories providers came out of the Mac market, which was obviously my bread and butter for the last sort of 7 or 8 years. So, you know, we kind of, Ranieri really sort of started to grow, you know, as a result of that. When you fast forward on sort of 20 years, Ranieri is now a sort of 45+ person agency. We focus in still consumer electronics, but we've sort of branched out now into consumer B2B technology, and then obviously gaming. Although we were traditionally a PR agency of the time, we've now really sort of expanded out into the sort of full service communications agency. So things that you would expect really. So PR is obviously still core to what we do, but we now do social media, content marketing, influencer marketing, paid from the social media side, and then obviously partnership marketing. But as well as this, we operate out of 3 sort of core areas now. So UK, France, DACH, with our 4 offices that we've now acquired. So we've got London, Paris, and then 2 in Germany, so in Düsseldorf and Munich. I think what really sort of sets us apart from other agencies, though, is that, you know, local work is great, but the fact that we can kind of go after multi-country business now with the different offices and all the partners, you know, it really enables us to be kind of a multi-service, multi-country agency, which, you know, if you can get the brands at the kind of European level, which is what we're starting to do, you know, the revenue obviously sort of grows exponentially. You're not just doing one piece of activity from one country, you're doing all of the strategy and then taking projects for all of Europe, which is what we're sort of really finding is accelerating us, certainly with the bigger brands. I just wanted to make note here in terms of business development, you know, Ranieri's been around now for 20 years as a brand within the consumer electronics industry, and obviously now further afield. But where we really get quite a lot of our business from, we have this kind of real amazing stream of kind of incremental business. So a lot of it comes from partner recommendation. We go to lots of kind of shows throughout the globe. So things like IFA, Slush Up in the Nordics, CES in Las Vegas, Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, Gamescom, where we kind of do a lot of networking. We now get lots of kind of referrals through the website, because obviously the website's been up there now in consumer electronics PR for 20 years. Well, not 20 years, probably 15 years. We have loads of global partners. So the countries that we don't cover, we obviously have partner agencies all across Europe, Asia, North America, Middle East, and they obviously refer us lots of work. We have lots of industry partners from people like distributors. So the actual technology and consumer electronics distributors who recommend us. And we now have a kind of BD person whose sole kind of agenda is to get us leads, and he's really starting to bring some stuff in now. And in fact, you know, just to show the level of brands that we're pitching for now. In the past sort of 6 months, we've actually pitched for Sony, Amazon Ring, PlayStation. We're currently pitching for Asus, and then also Tencent for the whole of Europe. So some pretty incredible stuff from really an agency which started from my bedroom originally. The good thing about the revenue as well within Ranieri is most of our work is retained. So probably over 90%, probably more, is just ongoing retainers. So from a kind of predictability and staffing level, it's a nice kind of position to be in. You know, I know a lot of kind of agencies like creative agencies and web agencies and people like that, they tend to kind of work from project to project, but we have this kind of, you know, 90% of our revenue is very kind of, you know, predictable, and, you know, we can sort of really base the planning off it. In terms of actual clients, I mean, we have across the group about 45 retained clients within Ranieri, but again, there's some really like you know, pedestal brands in there. So people like Harman Kardon, which covers JBL, Harman, and AKG, and we're actually the hub agency for the whole of Europe for Harman. So we manage all of their communications agencies. But then we also have people like Bosch, Canon, DeLonghi, which is the coffee brand, which is a slight step outside for us, but again, recommended. They were recommended to us, and we ended up winning them over 3 like food and drinks PR agencies, brands like Kenwood, Braun, Sharp, Asus, Nvidia, Miele. So again, really sort of household names that you would kind of recognize. Just touching on COVID, really, again, we were obviously, like COVID, it was a really sort of nervous time for everybody, but actually once it kind of started to play out, it turns out there were 2 kind of really big factors that kind of really helped us. Obviously, most of the brands that we work for are all in kind of consumer electronics and kind of technology, and obviously the technology industry through COVID, there was kind of a lot of pockets in technology that did really well, because obviously everyone transitioned from office to home, so they bought more monitors, they bought more desk chairs, they bought more kind of keyboards, mice, all of that kind of stuff, and we have a lot of brands that represent those brands. But interestingly, brands like DeLonghi we picked up at the early stages of COVID, and they actually had their best year ever through 2021, because obviously people stopped going to work and going to Costa Coffee and Starbucks, and they bought coffee machines at home, which again, all these kind of little pockets that kind of popped up. And obviously we're in digital marketing, which as a service to offer most of the kind of brands, which because retail was shut, they were all trying to find new ways to make sure they went direct to customer, which obviously fits really well with what we do. And actually we did a survey not so long ago about the sort of future services within marketing to make sure we're on point, and actually a lot of the big brands were telling us they're really keen to build their own sort of direct to consumer channel, so they're not so dependent on bricks and mortar retailers, websites like Amazon and kind of all those sorts of guys. And obviously it's amazing to do well on all of those platforms, but they want to make sure when there's a downturn like there was in the pandemic, they can still rely on their own channels to kind of sell through. One of the so over the past sort of 12 months we've also been winning quite a lot of awards. So been shortlisted things like Technology Agency of the Year, Best Digital Campaign, Young Professional of the Year, which is obviously one of our favourites because we're a big sort of ambassador for our employees. But one of the campaigns in particular that we won, the Best Digital Campaign for Europe for the Digital Impact Awards, it was actually a project we did with one of our clients, PUBG Mobile, and we actually had to do a 2-hour influencer execution, which it was all across Europe, UK, France, Germany, in the Nordics, over the 2-hour period, which then ended up being the weekend. We got 24 million likes and views for this kind of battle royale that we created, which was amazing. And obviously we've won 3 awards from that campaign alone. So why did we join PDG? I think for me, you can sum it up really in one word, which is ambition. When I set out the business plan for Ranieri, we of course want to be the #1 international creative communications agency, but in order to achieve that, you need the best people, the best clients, the multi-service capability, and to be able to kind of offer that all across Europe. And obviously to be able to do that, you really need to have an infrastructure behind you, because certainly in digital marketing, all the kind of the platforms, the technology, the methodologies, the way you do things, the learnings, the data that you kind of need to do that service, requires a lot of infrastructure. Obviously we're really excited to be part of PDG because there's a whole bunch of plans that we've got. So things like acquiring businesses with the technologies that we need to kind of progress, developing our own platform, RSpace, which is in the investment deck. But again, we've already kind of internally started to build platforms like that as a requirement for clients who kind of needed us to do it. So things like the Harman Kardon, we run all their agencies across Europe, and we actually built an intranet for them on SharePoint, which was kind of a home for all of their reporting, their assets, the resources, the communication tools. And actually, by expanding that and kind of branding it, it's going to be absolutely invaluable to setting us apart as an agency. Obviously working with Internet Corp, having a kind of a design partner and a virtual event platform just within the family just means we can have real honest communication backwards and forwards. We're already using Internet Corp's team for helping us kind of rework our kind of branding, help us with making our pitches look a lot more sort of sexy. Going to events like IFA, where we've probably got about 20 clients there, there's a real trend now for kind of hybrid events, which we can obviously sell as the retained agency to kind of to the brands that we have. And obviously there's other areas like insights tools, which again as a leading agency, we need to be able to provide sort of data insights to our clients, for whether it's through pitches or just in market intelligence to understand how to kind of build our campaigns properly. But yeah, and then obviously the last benefit is, you know, as an agency, you know, we're on the creative side, and on the kind of tactical side, really, we just want to get on with, you know, winning our clients and kind of servicing those clients. You know, PDG will provide us the opportunity to kind of offload some of the things like HR, finance, you know, the marketing of the business generally, so we can concentrate on what we're good at, which, you know, obviously when you've got that sort of share of work, you know, we should really kind of accelerate what we're doing, you know, in terms of business development. So yeah, in terms of us, that's quick 5 minutes. Obviously I could talk all day, but I'm aware we've got some time constraints, so I'll just finish there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for the insights, and especially thank you for the questions we already got in the chat. And one thing you just mentioned is you talked about locations, and we just got one question about the expansion. And it is, I would like to learn more about the expansion strategy. Can you tell us more about countries or markets you want to expand to in the future, and what benefits do you see in taking over well-running agencies rather than opening new locations under one brand?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Very good. And I think we can bring up this slide that's titled GTM Go-to-Market Strategy, because this does answer exactly that question.
Yes.
It's quite a complex undertaking, but let me try to cut this, you know, as short as possible. Basically, when we're talking about expansion, it goes into two areas. It's expansion of the agency business, that is the client-facing business. This is where we do indeed talk about new markets. And then there is the expansion of delivery units, which can be other acquisitions, and both of that is what we would use the funds of this campaign for, right? It's not an either or, it's an and, right? It's a little bit hard to predict what exactly will be the next acquisition. What I can tell you is that in the lineup for the delivery units, we've got, you know, 5+ companies in mind already that we are talking to at various stages, various levels, that will add to what Internet Corp are now doing for their own market, and to a growing extent for all the markets. Those companies are mostly coming from a data background, a data marketing background, because this is where we see the biggest benefit to add to our portfolio. And then when it comes to agencies, and I think that was what the question was focusing on, as Pietro was saying, we are working currently with, I think it's Pietro, 24 partner agencies across Europe and beyond, right? I mean, this is again a menu kind of we can choose from, right? Again, not all of them want to sell their agency, but some are very open to having those discussions with us. And again, we've started those conversations already. And the slide shows a few markets that could be interesting for us, right? Of course, it's the bigger markets that we focus on first, like Spain, like Italy, like the Nordics or Benelux, right? But, you know, there are also interesting agencies in places like Poland or Greece, of course, right? So we've got a very clear agenda and very clear methodology on how we rate and how we select companies that we invite to become part of the PDG group and network, right? And that applies to both the service delivery units and new agencies.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, Bernard. Ranieri, obviously we've been around for a while now, and we're at the stage where we're taking European briefs all the time. So, you know, for example, a brand would come to us, they'd ask us for a campaign in UK, France, Germany, and Spain, for example. We already have partner agencies in all the different countries that we don't own. So, you know, that is actually a really good gauge for where we should probably expand to next if we were adding another PR agency or a service offering in that country. So, you know, part of the original strategy for Ranieri is to kind of follow that sort of revenue path where those agencies are, because there are typical, you know, stronger markets. So things like Bernard said, the Nordics, Spain, Netherlands, they're all kind of areas that we kind of outsource to already. There's definitely pros and cons of acquiring an agency in that area or just kind of starting up your own offering. You can acquire an agency with existing clients, but there's obviously integration that you need to do to kind of make that happen. If you set up your own function, again, if a brand, I don't know, like Harman, for example, is asking us to set up, to take on that country, we need to also make sure that the offering is as good as our own offering in the UK, France, or Germany. So starting up and just having one person there or two people there, we need to obviously kind of either start slowly and build it up and then put those big clients in there to make sure the service isn't disrupted for the rest of the group, or acquire an agency and then but that costs more money. There's in onboarding and all of that kind of stuff. These are all things that we can manage, but again, it's in terms of where we go, I would say let the revenue lead it, and there's definitely there's lots of outsourcing that we do already. I'm actually also really keen on the services side as well. So there's location, but these days with all the kind of upskilling that we want to do with like digital insights, being more data led, a lot of that actually can be done from one country, because most of the kind of services that we subscribe to at the moment, like Brandwatch and things like that, they cover the whole of Europe just through one offering. So I hope that answers the question a bit as well.
Thank you. We got some questions regarding the customer relationship. You claim long-term relationships. How do you enter into a client relationship, and how do you develop a client relationship?
All right. There's a slide, I think, which can support the answer to the question very well. And basically, I mean, the way these things work is that there's two ways how you find your way, how you find inroads into a client. One is they do a big RFP. This is what Pietro just talked about, right? This is happening on a regular basis according to the campaign needs, the dynamics of product launches or completely new product lines or rebranding or whatever it is, that you can, take part if you're invited. And yeah, if you're lucky to win this, you have you've got a new client. But aside of that, there's also, another way of like doing projects for clients that are immediate needs that come up, outside campaigns many times, and that are much easier to do, and you just happen to have an offering there that would fit the client needs, and then this is your first project there. In terms of and this is what we this is how we find our way into clients, like with the first service, obviously, or a rather small set of services. Now, how we grow this, and that's the nice thing of having those multi-year client relationships, which are in the center of our doing, really, is trying to become the strategic partner in terms of the communication needs of those companies, and that means that we are adding services as time goes by, and being around for the client all year through, as Pietro was saying, on a retainer basis. So they would pay us money per month per service, and that's what we are trying to grow and what we are successful in growing. So it starts very low sometimes. It's a few €1,000 that it starts with, depending on the service, depending on the client, of course. But then that can grow to a multiple of that if you add from our service portfolio. And this is why we say we want to add to the service portfolio through partners, but also through acquisitions, because obviously through the acquisitions we can control those services best, and it maximizes our margins on the service delivery. Now this is the service portfolio aspect. The next growth step would of course be to take one client relationship in a country to another. And again, client behavior is very different here. So we've got some clients that see Europe as their market, and the campaigns would span across Europe by default, but also as typical are the clients that run marketing and communications country by country quite independently. And if you sell to one country like Germany, it's another sale to the if you want to have that client in the UK as well. And many times it's a completely different people. But then, of course, it is a leverage if you've got the reference from one country to the other, and you make that jump. And again, if you can take the whole service portfolio from one country to the next. You multiply all this, and get another budget. And then obviously the highest level we can achieve is becoming the hub there. This is the example that Pietro just quoted for Harman Kardon, or Harman in the Harman Group, and this is where we kind of take responsibility for all of the European business in communications and areas of marketing for that client. But and the point is here that in some countries we do have our own agencies, in others we don't. There's the partners, and of course working through partners gives us a smaller margin than working with our own agencies, right? And this is where this question comes in of, if we take over the whole agency, then apparently we can work in this market with a higher margin and harvest that complete revenue. So this is really the way it goes. So again, in the center, this is why we say in the center of what we're doing as an agency is the client relationship, and building it up that way.
Yeah, just to add to that, Bernard, as well, the way that we win clients and build relationships, it's a bit of everything in reality. So as an example, Harman, we're now the UK agency, the hub agency. We manage all their influencer marketing, a lot of their paid and their social, across Europe. But that actually started 10 years ago as one small 3-month project to promote one small speaker, just to show the UK boss, just to show the European marketing lead that they weren't getting value for money. So we kind of grew that one small project, and that was really just a foot in a door. And that was just funny enough, that was actually a connection I had for a number of years. And I met him in a nightclub, and he was upset about something that had happened that night. And that's how we got that project, which then led to, those many years of kind of work. And it's still growing now. And then on the other hand, we had a pitch in from DeLonghi 2 years ago in the beginning of COVID, which was to take over all of their UK business from PR, social, influencer marketing. We do all of their events. So you might have seen the Brad Pitt ambassador thing that they had recently, which we did all the launch for that in the UK. So really it kind of, the key thing is to do good work, because good work leads you to kind of, being known in the industry. The next thing is you need to make sure you get out there in the industry so that you're networking, all the leads are coming in. And then the other thing is just, making sure your communication is happening, and just to understand really when the big brands are putting RFPs out, because that's really, when you're going to get a shot at the big brand, because they don't, you're not going to call up a big brand and they're going to start sending you RFPs. They'll send you an RFP, when it's up for renewal, or someone's unhappy with something, and that's usually when or someone changes jobs. So that's usually when it kind of starts to happen. But like I say, Ranieri's been getting lots and lots of, organic leads for many years now, just because of the general kind of, size of the business. But, what we're really kind of working towards now is to we have this sort of, list of 50 target brands that we really want to go after. And now we've got to be patiently kind of waiting for when the opportunity to get that RFP in, like with Asus at the moment, or Sony, which we pitched for a while ago, which we couldn't go any further because we actually had competitive clients already, which was frustrating. But that's kind of the way it goes sometimes as well. So you can't even pitch for brands because you've got competitors, but that person might then move on to somewhere else. I mean, this is where we pitched for Deezer. We've done a few projects for Deezer in the UK. That person left and went to Amazon Ring. We've now started pitching for them because that person really appreciated the work we did for Deezer. So really, yeah, just to kind of back up what Bernard was saying, it's just relationships, doing a good job, making sure you're there at the right time really as well.
Thank you. The next question would be, how is the organic growth justified? And could you please provide some details from the history to future?
Yeah, so I think it was pointed out already. So the growth ambition is when we talk about revenue, is 20% year over year. This is what the growth assumption is based on. We want to get so basically what's important to say, and maybe this is also to add to the deck and the investment, the campaign presentation, is really that if you invest in Primavera Digital Group, you are part of a journey that will lead to a clear exit. We all do this. We're all investors, the management and our financial investors and our founding investors. We all do this because we want to run for an exit, which should happen on a multiple of the valuation that we've got today. How is that possible? It's possible because we are collecting smaller units in marketing and media, digital media, and build a bigger unit from that. Why is the bigger unit? Why does the bigger unit have a higher value? Very simple, because the big guys out there, the big fish in investment, only see other fish from a certain size, right? And that certain size, and we know this because we have got very experienced investors on board. For the Finnish community in this call, there is Mr. Aaron Mishla, who many people know as a very successful investor in Finland, and there's other people too. They have the experience of the market, knowing that that size level is about 25 to 30 million in revenue, and by that size you attract the attention of big investors, of other media and advertising companies and groups, and there's of course also the option to go to the stock market, right? So this is what we want to achieve. The organic growth in that whole growth ambition is about half of it, right? And the other half is supposed to come from acquisition. So we kind of buy revenue, you could say, right? And how do we justify the growth within the groups? Well, of course, we are subject to markets, right? I mean, we've seen that in the year-over-year comparison from January to May now in 22 compared to 21. In some of the areas, we are far over the 20%. We are far over 30% in some areas. And other areas, like Raluca was pointing out, advertising in Romania is suffering a hard time there. So we did not achieve the plus 20% yet, right? But we still achieved some increase, right? So this is a matter of market conditions, but we are building up the business development force there. We're integrating, and we are now also tackling the synergies, as we were saying, between the agencies and between Internet Corp and the agencies, right? And these are all the factors that we drive this revenue growth with, right?
Okay, thank you so much. Piero, anything you want to add? No.
No, I think Bernard's nailed it really. I mean, our figures were based on last year's numbers and a kind of projected level at the time. So, we're pretty confident those numbers are more or less accurate.
All right. I think we're now coming to an end. We're a bit over time. We can't answer all questions now, but we will definitely bring them to the project page. So thank you to Primavera and all the attendees of this webinar. I want to mention one last time, if you have any further questions, just send them to service@investor.com via email. And the recording of this webinar is available with the link you just joined. So yes, have a good evening and goodbye. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Probably enough. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.